So in this quick video, I'm going to go through and clarify the 3 causes of all diseases according to traditional Chinese medicine. And I'm also going to discuss a few little tips and tricks about how you can actually treat it, because once you understand what's the underlying cause of a disease, it's much easier to know how to treat it, right? So traditional Chinese medicine, one of the main things it has going for it is that it has a long period of time of field testing, which means many of these theories have existed for thousands of years and have been tested and observed repeatedly. Potentially millions, billions of people have gone through this process. And so we are still using many of these theories today. And so that means it's had a lot of testing, a lot of field testing, right? A lot of case studies. So that's one of the main things that traditional Chinese medicine theories offer us, is that this stuff has been tested, right? Not in the obvious scientific method of today, most of it, but in another sense that it's just been observed and tested for so long. So if you're new to this channel, my name is Hetherington. I help people that struggle with anxiety, with stress, digestive problems, and traumas from the past. And I help them to reorganize, reset their nervous system, mainly using a method called EFT tapping. And EFT tapping helps to calm, it helps to regulate, and it also helps to kind of free these stresses from the system so that people can feel more relaxed, their body can start to heal itself, and they can have a greater sense of freedom. So let's get into this. So what are the 3 causes of all diseases according to traditional Chinese medicine? Number 1 is called external, right? And what they mean by this, an external pathogen, they're really referring to environmental factors. Too much heat, too much cold, too much wet, too much wind, and so on, right? So obviously, if you live in a cold environment, you can handle it for a while, but as the cold penetrates inside your system and eventually gets to your organs, you're in big trouble, right? Hypothermia, et cetera, et cetera. So that's when cold external pathogen invades you and makes you sick. Another one's heat stroke, right? So if you're exposed to the sun or the heat for too long, you can handle it for a while, but after a while it penetrates into the system, starts to cook the organs, you're in big trouble, right? Same with damp, water comes in, the body gets wet, submerged, or continues in damp clothing for too long, and the body starts to rot. And as it gets deeper, you're in big trouble. So this is what it usually means by external causes of diseases. And obviously back in the day, before air conditioners, before, the sort of construction that we use now, this was a larger issue back in the day. People were freezing all the time, cooking all the time, all this sort of stuff. But these days, it doesn't happen as much. It's particularly in the developed countries where, everything's quite regulated. So that's the first thing, is external pathogen. And what can you do about it? Well, like I said, you just don't want to be exposed for too long. A little exposure is actually good for you, like cold showers every now and then, getting out in the sun, getting a bit cooked, getting a bit, dirty with the earth. Getting blown around by the wind, it's actually good for you for a little while, right? But it's when it's prolonged, for days at a time, weeks at a time, you want to avoid that. That's easy, right? So number 2 is called internal cause. And what they're really referring to here is our psychological and emotional state, particularly the emotions. So in Chinese medicine, they say it's okay and it's natural to have the whole spectrum of human emotion, right? From guilt, shame, through to anger, through to, embarrassment, through to, and then into the higher states as well, like joy, happiness, whatever it may be. So it's completely natural and normal to experience the whole spectrum, but the problems come, internal pathogens come when we stay in a particular state for a long period of time, such as anger, such as guilt, such as shame, right? Resentment. If we stay in those emotions for too long, it messes internally and starts to disrupt and cause disease. Now, this is actually 50 to up to 80% of the causes of diseases. So this is the majority of our diseases are caused from psycho-emotional states and dysregulation of the nervous system. Right? It's an internal issue. In today's language, we call it stress, right? Anxiety. It's very sort of general terms. But if you look at all the statistics, stress, anxiety, depression, the amount recorded through the large populace is massive. And so a lot of that is causing disease, degenerative disease, autoimmune disease, stress-related disease, anxiety-related disease, right? There's a lot of them, right? So what can you do to treat this? So I'm going to be biased and say EFT tapping is one of the most effective ways to actually process and regulate the system, particularly after a strong emotion, right? Trauma, something like that. You do need to process it in some way, in a healthy way. If you don't process it, gets suppressed and cause that internal friction, causes disease. So EFT tapping obviously is a fantastic one I recommend. Check out many of my videos if you want to learn more. Things like meditation, when under the guidance of a good teacher, and good practice is obviously good practice as well. Mindfulness, journaling, better communication skills, all the things that are advised to help us deal with and process our emotions in a healthy way, right? So that's how you treat that. And the third one, they call it miscellaneous factors. So miscellaneous factors can be sort of out of the ordinary. So this can be trauma, this can be improper diet, this can be genetic predispositions. This would make up about 20%. Yeah, about 20% of the illnesses and disease is from miscellaneous factors. It could also be like you get poisoned. So it's kind of all the extras, all the leftover, right, are the miscellaneous factors. So how do you treat this? So obviously you treat it case by case, but lifestyle factors, working with your genetics in a healthy way. Again, learning how to process and deal with things like trauma. If you get poisoned, obviously seeking medical attention for that. And that's basically it. So that makes up the whole 3 causes of disease. One is external factors, so environmental factors invading the system. Second one is internal factors, particularly the emotions, which get prolonged and disrupt the internal system, eventually turning to some kind of disease. And the third is miscellaneous factors, which are more out of the ordinary things, poisoning, trauma, and genetic factors as well. So those are the 3 things. If you are suffering from illnesses or anything like that commonly, then see if you can categorize where you think it's coming from. Maybe there's a few, maybe it's more than one, but if it's definitely if the psycho-emotional component is involved, then be sure to check out my other EFT videos, dive deeper into that, because it's one of the most powerful things I've found, and it's fast, it's easy, and it really works. So yeah, hopefully that's helpful. Let me know in the comments below if that makes sense to you, and I'll look forward to seeing you next time. Thank you.